Okay, so in this section today, we're going to continue solving. Today we're going to solve by graphing. One thing I want you to make sure that you have in your head is that when you're using the graphing method, you cannot find imaginary roots because they're not on the graph. Imaginary numbers don't show up on your coordinate grid, so you can't find them by the graphing method. So what we're going to look at is, on some of these, combining graphing and algebra to go through and find all the roots. Now let's look at this first one here. Looking at this, I just want you to notice it's x to the third, which means we should have 3 answers. Now what I'm going to go through and do is I'm going to graph this on my calculator. Okay, so pulling up my calculator, and I'm going to put in my equation, so x to the third plus 3x squared minus x minus 3. Then I'm going to graph this thing. Okay, now when I'm looking at this, I see 3 places where it crosses the x-axis. 1, 2, 3. So if I come back over here, I'm supposed to have 3 answers. None of those answers are imaginary. They're all real because I see them right here. Now it looks to me like my answers are 1, -1, and -3. If I'm not sure, I can double check that on the table. Go up to where I can see -3. So -3, the y value is 0, so that's good. -1, okay, that's good. +1, that's good. So I found all my answers on my calculator. Lucky me. I didn't really have to do much work. Now I want to give you a heads up on this. I guarantee you that you will have problems on your calculator that will not be that easy. If it was going to be that easy, we wouldn't learn all the algebra methods. This next problem that we're about to look at, it's one I might put on the calculator part of the test. I don't think I'd put this one. This next one I might put on the calculator part of the test. I want you to see how it's different. Okay, so we have this right here. Before I plug it into my calculator, I'm going to get it set equal to 0, so I'm going to move the 3 to the other side. Okay, so this right here then is what I'm going to graph in my calculator. Okay, so go to y equals, put that in, x to the third minus 2x squared plus 3. Now, while this is coming up, let me come back over here. Just a reminder, this is x to the third, so we should end up with 3 answers total. Okay, let's look at our graph. And I've got a problem here. I only have 1 time that it crosses the x-axis. Now the reason for that, and you could probably have come up with this on your own, but the reason for that is because I've got 1 answer that's real. It looks to me like it's -1. Which means the other 2 answers are going to be imaginary. So I know one of my answers, it's -1. Let's come back over here and let's try to find the other 2. Okay, now I know one answer, it's -1. Let me put it up there. So here's what I'm going to go through and do. I'm going to do synthetic division with the -1. If the -1 is one of the zeros, I should get a 0 as a remainder when I do synthetic division. Okay, now I was talking when I wrote this down, so I want to go back to it real quick. I put a 0 right here as a placeholder for the x to the first place. Okay, so let me do my synthetic division. Okay, so -1 checks out as an answer. I pretty much already knew that was going to happen because I saw it on my calculator. I'm going to bring down my answer right here. Now to get my other 2 answers, I can do one of 2 things. I can either factor it, Now, I don't think hours will factor. If I can't factor, I can use the quadratic formula. So that's what I'm going to do because I don't think this thing will factor. So negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And then I'm going to simplify it. So this is negative 9. Square root of negative 9 is 3i. I can't reduce here. So, I made a mistake. What mistake did I make? My notes don't match this. Oh, right here, I should have done b squared, and I just did b. So b squared is 9, which means I'll have 3 here. Which means right here, I'll have I root 3. Okay, so here then are my two answers. 3 plus or minus, making a lot of mistakes today. 3 plus I root 3 over 2. And 3 minus I root 3 over 2. Now, this question, I'd probably let you use your calculator on. To be honest with you, until we get to, I can't remember if it's the next section or the section after that, but until a little bit further, we don't know how to do this if we don't get the negative 1 off of our calculator. I probably would not give you one like this that you could use your calculator on. So make sure that you know how to do the whole process. I'm not going to give you your calculator to be your crutch and do everything for you. I'm going to give it to you as a part of something like this. Okay, now here's the last one, and this one's actually pretty simple. I just wanted to make sure to have something that y'all could kind of see on here. And then even though I do think you could get all these off your calculator, I do want us to kind of go through the process. Okay, so I'm going to get everything set equal to 0. I don't really want to move my x to the third and make it negative, so I'm going to move these over here to the left-hand side. Okay, now looking at this, since we are doing this one with calculator, I'm going to graph it on my calculator. So I have 2x to the third minus 5x squared minus 12x. Okay, now when I'm looking at this, I was supposed to have, or I am supposed to have 3 answers, and I can see them, 1, 2, 3. So they're all real numbers, no imaginary numbers. This one looks like it's at 4. This one looks like it's at 0. This one's hard to see. So I know that 0 and 4 are 2 of my answers. I'm not sure what this one is. Now to find it, I can use my calculator to do the left bound, right bound thing. I'm looking for the 0, so I'm going to choose number 2 here. I went to second calc. And then it's going to ask me for left bound and right bound. Now, if this is what I'm looking for, I want to give it a point on the left-hand side, which would be down there. So let me scroll my cursor to where it's down below. Okay. Enter, and then give it a right bound, so I want to give it something up there. Okay, that's fine. Remember, the arrow should be pointing at each other. If you want to guess, go for it. If not, hit enter. And it'll give me my value, so negative 1.5. I'm going to write that as negative 1 1/2. Now, that's great. I did this on the calculator. You may have some that are messy. I do not want rounded answers. Did you hear that? I do not want rounded answers. If you can give me an exact value like you could on the negative 1.5, that's great. But I do not want you to round, which means if it's a messy number, you've got to do it algebraically and get me a square root. Now I want us to do this a different way. I'm looking at this and I'm thinking I could factor this thing. And the reason I think I could factor this thing is because I could pull out an x. So I'm going to pull out an x and let's see what's going on from here. Okay. So I have a 2x and an x, and I'm going to try to use a 4 and a 3. I think if I put the 4 here and the 3 there, it'll give me the 5, because I would have 8 minus 3 is 5. Now I want the 5 to be negative, so I'm going to make the 8 negative, the 3 positive. Okay, now if I can get this thing factored, what do I do to solve? Set each factor equal to 0 and solve. So move the 3 over, divide by the 2. Now this is written as an improper fraction, but it's the same as negative 1 and 1/2. That's how we wrote it over here. And here's my 4. Okay, now what I want you to notice is this question, I don't have to put on the calculator part of a test. I could put it on the no calculator part. And you should be able to do this by factoring. So with the calculator, I want you to be careful not to make it a crutch. And I know how you guys are. Y'all like to be addicted to your calculator. I am promising you that you will have to do this stuff without your calculator. So use it when I let you, but make sure you can do this without. All right, so we're going to continue solving polynomials in the next section. Until then, have fun doing your math.